you don't control the universe. And so when you found everything on controlled experiments, well, there's some things you don't control. And so I think there's a problem with science in that respect.
Well, that's a good point, especially with you having a PhD. And, you know, a lot of people believe in all the time they put into the reality they had, that they would go through the educational process and focus and get what we call at least 12 years. And you can correct me on that, Dr. Scott, but how one becomes a PhD. And isn't it funny that they always say it's a PhD is a doctor in philosophy? Is it not, Dr. Scott? Isn't that what the PhD stands for?
Yeah, and back when they invented the word PhD, I think it meant philosophy. There's a lot more fields now, and I think they...
yeah, go ahead.
Well, there's a lot more fields.
Yeah, doctorate in discipline, except medicine or sometimes theology. A person holding a Doctor of Philosophy degree. So that is what PhD is for. It started in philosophy. Now they have PhD, you know, they have MA, MBA, MS, MSW, and PhD. So PhD is actually a Doctor of Philosophy. That's what it stands for. Now they have a part-time psychology PhD program. I don't know how you'd be a part-time PhD, but a Doctor of Philosophy. And it's you just have to look into it. But some people that still, may know a lot on their, and may know more than a PhD. So some people have classroom education and some do not. So some that have expertise in their chosen profession or field will say a PhD stands for piled high deeper. And I actually learned that from Janet Carroll Lesson and had to go ask people. And they said, yeah, that's the redneck term for somebody that's educated. So Janet used a little redneck on me one time. She was telling me when
it's a running joke that I hear everywhere, you know. But my husband is very smart. Don't underestimate him. And we also have to look at, you know, what creates our reality. Look at the people, and I'll get the statistic if I Google it, but there are how many billion people that believe in Christianity, and then all the sub-variations on that theme. And then we have all the Muslims, and we have all the Buddhists and everything. So that becomes a reality for these people, atheists, based on belief, and there's nothing scientific about any of it, but it still affects life and existence, and people, you know, die in court over it, right? You know, it's real. It's very real because it's in your face. And if you don't make it real, other people make it real for you. So I don't really follow the scientific method because, you know, I believe in science to a degree, but I believe in, you know, rock and roll. I mean, I believe in so many things. I think belief is what forms it. And so you got to be careful what you believe. But sometimes you believe what you believe just because your mind, body, soul, and experience has created some outcome, like all the information goes into your beingness from your life, and then you come out with a belief, and you operate from that belief. Now, does it serve you? Does it hurt you? You might want to look at your belief systems. You might want to change it. But some people believe what they believe all their lives, and they take it to their grave. And if you talk to them about what's real, their reality is going to be way different than your reality. So what do we do with this? So we're just looking at a field that really is not provable because they're not going to let us cut off the fingers and bring it back with us. And they, you know, people have told us on the shows, you know, I saw that little thingamaboob and I wanted to bring it back with me and I put it in my pocket, but when they returned me, I looked in my pocket and it wasn't there, you know. So they know what you're thinking. And go ahead. Did you just bring something back? Go ahead.
Well, I wasn't saying I didn't believe these particular people's stories. Now,
well, the one thing, evidence.
Yeah, well, I would love some evidence. I mean, that would just make it rock solid. See, and the one thing I do notice is, you know, it doesn't matter if it's real or not; it's real to them.
Yes, and there's strong theoretical debates on this, whether it's spirit or religion or the meaning of life, are just quantum mechanics, probability of theory and neurons. It's all philosophy. It's all talk. It's all words. So basically, we're in this conversation on this radio show, and Dr. Scott, I was so excited that Dr. Scott agreed to do this, folks, and hopefully in the future we'll give her more time to prepare, because she is going to be a speaker at the 50th anniversary of the Mutual UFO Network, which we're all very proud of, that was started back in the day. And she mentioned the beginning two men, John Schuessler, and what was the other one that were the founders? There was 3 or 4, according to Wikipedia. But the Andrews, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Walt Andrews. Walt Andrews.
Walt Andreus.
Walt.
Andurus. And John Schuessler, Schuessler, and Alan R. Utke, according to Wikipedia, founded May 31st, 1969. If you'd like to write that down, anybody, or Janet. May 31st, 1969. And I came into that reality in 67. And man walked on the moon June 29th. Oh, is it tomorrow? Or is it? Yeah, is it? Wait.
No, July 20th, 1969. Man walked on the
July
moon.
20th.
Okay,
July 20th.
It's the anniversary. How many? This is the end. This is the year ending 2019. So 69, 79, 89, 99, 2009. The 50th anniversary of the moonwalk, right? Or is it? Yeah.
Well,
it's the 50th anniversary of the moonwalk on July 9, 1969. On July 20th, 2019 will be. And that'll be 50 years ago that I met my first husband and I had my first kiss with my first kiss. There you go.
Now,
we were looking at the moon. We go, hey, they're going to go walking on the moon. We better get home so we can see it. And then he kissed me, and then I ran home. And I saw
Dr. Scott, you have history with MUFON. Do you know how many years you paid your dues? Because they used to make us pay annually. Now you can pay weekly or monthly, I think. But do you know how many years you actually paid in back in the day when Stanton Friedman was around? From 69, they told me I couldn't join. What?
I paid in every year, I think, since the 1990s. I joined somewhere in the 1990s.
Wow. Well, I was part of the formation at NASA in 1969, and Walter Andrews and some people in Wisconsin, there was a big argument. They came down and we had an argument. I know I was there firsthand over who started the original UFO group. And we've had, and then they came over, one of the gentlemen, I think it was Walt Andrews, and then even when I started writing again in 2007, we talked about the dates that originally started, and we had controversy. So we started getting all that up and putting it on in the internet. And I don't know, it was George Filer, Stanton Friedman, and then people like yourself all the way back to Wisconsin. Now, Dr. Bruce Maccabee and NICAP, and then that couple, we went all the way back to the Wisconsin and Walt Andrews. I guess he worked with them. You remember the couple in Wisconsin? Do you have any intel on that?
What couple?
It was a couple that had, let me see if I can put it with. See, you do know about them. Began. Newspaper or something. Tell us what you know, Dr. Scott.
Well, the couple I can think of is the Lorenzens, but I thought they were in Arizona. So I must not be thinking of ones.
Let's see. Oh, surely I can find this couple, because historically, folks, you have to go back. The Curious Case of the Alien Phone, newspaper headlines 47 crash.
They
and then
started APRO.
APRO. There you go. There you go, Janet. You need to know this.
Okay,
APRO.
there's the couple.
APRO. That's them. That's what I'm looking for. APRO, the Aerial Phenomenal Research Organization.
Okay.
That was a big argument I was a part of back in the day with astronauts at NASA. We were secretive at a house because we couldn't meet at the office. And this gentleman had a huge home with a huge underground library hidden books. And he was helping to donate and work with APRO in Wisconsin. And this gentleman was claiming, so there was 5 or 6 people that were getting together saying that they started the first UFO group. And you'd think it wouldn't be a big deal, but it was the people going to space in NASA. And I bet we can find people like that. And Ken went to some of those back then meetings, I guess you could say. And I believe William Tompkins went to some of those meetings I was in. Of course, I was young, but people didn't know how young I really was. I was very tall. Janet, you've got that picture of what I looked like back then at NASA, the one with the yellow dress and my sisters in front of that Chrysler.
Oh, yeah.
That was about 1969. Angie's on my hip, and she was 68. And then I had another discussion about UFOs I had to go to in Montauk Point because of the time travel and the Roswell, and were we really doing like Stargate stuff. So that was sick. So we can bring all that together. Dr. Scott, you would be the perfect PhD woman to step forth and learn how there is another, there's always the truth that we put out there, and there's the truth behind the truth. And some people, this guy that from Grumman said there's 2 sides and then the truth. That was Grumman's famous saying, 2 sides and the truth. And Ken Johnston, who is one of our directors now for the ACO Association, it's for ACO Ascension Center organization I started years ago with Janet and Sasha and Mally, and then since then we've made it Alien Contact Org for ACO, and now with Mad and Ken and Janet too, I guess, and me, Allied Command Organization. So Dr. Scott, I know what you said. There's a story about the Allied Command in space that needs to come out whether people believe it or not. So it's just really hard for me to write because it's my reality. And I think Janet and Mad are going to help me. But Dr. Scott, I'd like to invite you because you're smart about publications and you helped Mutual UFO all those years. So I'm going to invite you in on this story just based on the truth tonight that I told you on the air because that's my truth. I just don't know how. I'm so emotionally. Let me let Ahmad say it. Ahmad, I'm too emotionally attached to my truth, so I need help.
Because it's your reality now. When somebody looks at it from the outside, they're able to, like I was telling you with your story, you're telling it in a firsthand experience, but it's hard to make it so other people can relate to it.
Yes, because it's touching all my nervous system that's attached to my neural net. And my bilocation body may be somewhere else or in 5 areas. I like to tell people I'm on 5 wavelengths. I think differently than most. So when I have to tune them all in.
That was the same problem with Bill Tompkins. And they were all trying to help him get his story out there.
Before he died.
And he wrote this book, Selected by Extraterrestrials. And I love Bill Tompkins. I got to spend some time with him 2 weeks before he died. But his book was kind of disjointed, right? And so we were having a lot of meetings like, how can we get this story out there? Because it's like, it's like your story. It's so phenomenal. We need to get it in a structure that people can understand it. And I don't know what happened. I was at those meetings at MUFON in, I think it was 2017 in July, and I was part of these meetings, and it's here 2 years later. Nothing's happened with Bill Tompkins' story. But Bill Tompkins worked in NASA, and so has it come out, the new book? Or what's going on?
Janet, I told you that the men would always herd me away from him. I was very, very pretty, and he was very sweet, but he would be hard to focus on Interstellar when a pretty girl was around. And I have not read his book, but I heard he sort of went on that, right? But they had me
Well, there's
meeting.
some things I want to share off air about that, but I don't want to do that on air.